I flew on the Air Greenland A330neo. Air Greenland has a very unique operation among most airlines today. They serve the Arctic island of Greenland, an autonomous territory of Denmark, using helicopters and turboprops to connect communities. However, they also have one jet aircraft, a widebody Airbus A330-800neo. Now that is quite a step up from the Dash 8, which is the next largest plane that they fly. This A330, however, operates almost exclusively between Copenhagen, Denmark, and Greenland's capital city, Nuuk, though it does occasionally do charter flights outside of that. An A330 might seem like a lot of airplane for Air Greenland, but the flight to or from Copenhagen is a busy one. It's about 4.5 hours each way, and is a vital link for the island that needs lots of capacity for both cargo and passengers. Although there are several unique ways to fly out from Greenland, this very exclusive A330 was something that we had to try. So, after spending some time further north, some friends and I had a few days here in Nuuk to see what Greenland's capital had to offer. Nuuk is the largest city in Greenland and is home to 20,000 people, roughly a third of Greenland's entire population. The history of human habitation around Nuuk dates back thousands of years, though it wasn't until the 18th century that the city was officially founded. It was later renamed to Nuuk, meaning Cape or Headland in Greenlandic, in 1979 when Greenland was granted home rule by the Parliament of Denmark. Today, Nuuk has a beautiful blend of both old and modern architecture, from the neighborhood of Old Nuuk, which includes some of Greenland's oldest buildings, to the high-rises of modern downtown Nuuk. All of this, combined with the stunning mountains all around, really makes the city unlike anywhere else I've ever been. We also spent a good amount of time at Nuuk Airport, catching some of the unique traffic there, including this Euro-Atlantic 767 operating a charter flight for the Danish military. Since the airport is basically at the base of a mountain, there are tons of elevated spots all over the east side to get some great views of everything, and with the whole city in the background too. Now, because the airport is also on a plateau higher up than the city, close to 6 million cubic meters of rock had to be moved to extend the runway, so there's quite the drop on either end, and these huge towers for the approach lighting. While we were out at the airport, we also met Nuuk's very own aviation YouTuber Bjarne, who very kindly gave us a quick tour around the airport and a bit of the city. Do go check out his work from here, where there seems to be an interesting visitor almost every week. Air Greenland's headquarters are also here at the airport, and as it turns out, they do have a store at the main entrance that the public can access. That ended about as well as you'd expect for my wallet. Eventually though, it was time for us to say goodbye to Greenland. I'm so glad I was finally able to visit, and use the Air Greenland flight from Canada to get here. I do hope we get to see some more Canadian routes someday. As you'd expect, it was quite busy in the terminal this morning, and Air Greenland had all of their counters open for the flight to Copenhagen. They also had a dedicated line for passengers in their premium class, which is basically their premium economy / business class product only on the A330. To make sure we get the absolute most out of this flight, and the best engine view possible, that is where we're sitting today. Now, the A330 usually has a 2-hour turnaround here in Nuuk, and with our checked bags gone through, we went back up the hill for a proper view of the inbound flight's arrival. Our ride to Copenhagen is this 3-year-old Airbus A330-800neo, registered as Oscar Yankee Golf Kilo November. It was delivered to Air Greenland in December 2022 to great fanfare, and is one of only 9 A330-800s ever built. Air Greenland gives names to all of their aircraft, and the A330neo is named Takeoff, meaning harpoon tip in Greenlandic. Unlike their other aircraft, Takeoff is not actually based in Greenland, but at Copenhagen Airport, where they have an agreement with Scandinavian Airlines for maintenance. It's worth noting, though, that Air Greenland is no stranger to flying the A330. Takeoff replaced an older Airbus A330-200 named Norsak, which flew with them from 2003 to 2023. Before it was retired, I had the privilege of seeing Norsak myself in, of all places, Fort McMurray, Alberta. It was operating a charter flight, bringing in Team Greenland for the 2023 Arctic Winter Games. Around that point, Air Greenland had both A330s in service at the same time, and this was part of the reason that Norsak was able to operate the charter to Fort McMurray. Norsak was withdrawn from service just a month after that happened, and was flown to Arizona for scrapping in March 2023. It's now one of the few airplane tags that I own, but arguably one of the most meaningful. So, as you can probably tell, I was very excited to be here flying on Norsak's successor. With Tukak on the ground, the check inside was now much quieter, and it was about time to head through security and to the very busy secure area. Like their old hub strategy in Kangerlussuaq, most of the Dash 8 flights here are timed for connections to and from the Copenhagen flight. Now, there are actually 3 levels to the terminal. The lowest level is on the apron level, where all the gates are, while the second one is where security and check-in is, and is kind of the other ground floor to the roadside. Up on this third level, though, is another much quieter waiting area, with lots of seats and another nice elevated view of Tukak. Like I've mentioned in other videos, I've had a long-time interest in Air Greenland's whole operation, so being here about to fly on their flagship felt pretty surreal. Meanwhile, back on the ground floor, it was still pretty busy, and aside from the duty-free area, there is also a little restaurant and cafe with hot food. In the midst of the crowd, it wasn't totally clear when they called for boarding, but sure enough, this line started moving. Premium class does supposedly get early boarding, but whatever, we're about to go fly on one of the rarest A330s in the world. My seat on this A330neo would be 4A in the back half of Air Greenland's premium cabin. There are 42 of these seats here in a 2-3-2 layout. These are pretty standard wide-body premium economy seats, with a good amount of space, and this one will have an excellent view once the stairs are gone. Shortly after sitting down, I was offered a pre-departure drink and had this cup of water. I'll do the usual thorough look at the seat once we're in the air, but first impressions, it's pretty nice, especially with these big screens, which also had some exterior cameras. Fortunately, Premium was not super full today, and we all ended up with a free aisle seat as they finished up boarding. Looking outside from here, you could see the hill where we were watching the arrival from, as well as almost everything else, and what a great spot that was. Nuuk may also be the only airport in the world with stop bar markings like these. Eventually, boarding was complete, and the stairs were driven away as we were welcomed on board.
Welcome aboard this Air Greenland Airbus A330neo. The flight time to Copenhagen is estimated to be 4 hours and 20 minutes.
That was followed by Air Greenland's safety video with plenty of nice B-roll of Tukak. Before we could get going, there was a bit of fuel frost on the wing, so a quick Type 1 spray later, and we were pushing back. Enjoy the sound of these Rolls-Royce Trent 7000s starting up. With that, we were on the move with some more great views of Nuuk as we backtracked for takeoff. Here's our departure off of runway 22 with some stunning scenery and a very quick lineup. Well, aside from the nose gear leaving some rubber behind on the runway, what a great sounding takeoff that was. Those Rolls-Royce Trent 7000s are only found on the A330neo, and that alone was well worth setting up here. Let's take a look now at the more tangible reasons for buying a premium ticket. Starting from right in front is this large and very reflective in-flight entertainment screen that has a USB-A port and a headphone jack. The screen itself does tilt, and next to it is a little coat hook. Below that is a small storage pocket, and then the actual seat back pocket, which has lots of room. Further below that is this footrest that folds down. Between the seats was more storage, with a place for each pair of seats to put a water bottle. Just opposite of that were two universal power outlets. On the right side is a little shelf for drinks, and then the tray table in the armrest. These fold out across your lap and can slide a little bit. Each seat also has an adjustable headrest, in theory, since this one did not want to stay up. On the left-hand side of the seat is another fixed armrest and some buttons for the recline and the leg rest. As is usually the case for me, the leg rest was not usable, but it's nice to have. The seat also reclines a good amount and sort of shifts forward when it does, but that kind of impacts the legroom. Also, for some reason, the rendering Air Greenland uses for the premium seats shows them reclining at an impossible angle and literally into the lap of the passenger behind you. Moving on to the seat back pocket stuff. This included the safety card for the A330neo, the branded air sickness bag with translations of common phrases in Danish, English, and Greenlandic, this air travel survey from a Danish university, Air Greenland's in-flight magazine, which still has lots of excellent reading, plus a fleet page and route map, and finally their duty-free catalog, which had some Air Greenland specific things, some Greenlandic products, the usual duty-free, and then a drink and snack menu towards the back, showing what was complimentary for economy versus premium. As we climbed away from Nuuk and away from the clouds along the coast, the purser welcomed us on board again with a PA of what we could expect on today's flight.
Good afternoon, my name is Jens Ulrik Dybjørn and I have the pleasure of being today's purser on this flight to Copenhagen. I'd like to apologize for the delay out of Nuuk. We'll be approximately 30 minutes delayed when we get to Copenhagen. It was due to the de-icing. On behalf of the rest of this fantastic crew, I'd like to give you a warm welcome aboard and briefly tell you about the service that's going to take place during the next 4 hours, 10 minutes when we are on our way to Denmark.
We crossed over the western edge of the Greenland ice sheet as we continued east, with some fortunately clear skies for this first part of the flight. Again, this sort of view with that red engine and winglet is exactly what we wanted from this. I know I will definitely be back here someday, and not just in the sense of flying over on some transatlantic flight. Soon after that, the cabin crew came by with some cashews and a choice of drinks. I went for a Faxe Kondi, which is basically Danish Sprite, and a bottle of water for later. That came in this nice Air Greenland branded glass too. The other crew member serving premium then came through, handing out these codes for free access to the Wi-Fi. Hot towels soon followed, and it was time for the meal service. Premium passengers got this meal tray with an entree and a couple different choices of warm bread served from a basket. Today's lunch/dinner included a salmon dish as an appetizer, a main course of beef with mashed potatoes and vegetables, 2 buns, Air Greenland branded salt and pepper, a Thomas Cook branded cup for some reason, butter, and a dessert. They also offered me some cheese to go with the bread. All of this was pretty tasty and a very solid meal overall. I think this is all catered from Copenhagen though, since I didn't see any catering trucks in Nuuk. The crew finished up the meal with another drink service and gave out some chocolates. By that point, we were already approaching Iceland, and it felt like this flight was going by way too fast. Air Greenland refers to the A330 flight as their transatlantic service, which geographically is accurate, but as someone who's used to overnight flights to Europe from Western Canada, it's a strange feeling going eastbound in daylight. It was nice and clear over some parts of Iceland, which was a treat to see going this direction too. I should mention, though this route is the flagship one with the A330, Air Greenland also wet leases 737s from Danish charter airline Jettime to add extra capacity during the summer. That also allows them to serve secondary airports in both Greenland and Denmark, although their new A320neo coming in 2027 may change that agreement going forward. Like I mentioned, Air Greenland has 42 seats up here in premium, but of those, only 22 were occupied, giving us all lots of space. For what it's worth, since those new engines are massive, even the very first row on the A330-800 still gets you a pretty good wing view. This premium lavatory at the very front of the plane had lots of room and was nice and clean. One simple but really smart feature on most of these newer Airbuses is the touchless trash can lid. Meanwhile in the back, economy class seats 263 passengers in a 2-4-2 layout, very typical of most A330s. With a total of 305 seats, that makes this cabin pretty dense. It is needed though, because economy was almost completely full. For this being their only airplane with in-flight entertainment, Air Greenland has lots of content on here. They have the usual movies, some music, and games, as well as some Air Greenland specific videos, including a few about Nuuk itself. They also had plenty of reading about places in Greenland and Greenland culture. That was in addition to the usual moving map. Apparently, Premium would usually get complimentary earbuds, but they didn't have any on this flight. Supposedly, Bluetooth functionality is coming soon. There were also these excellent external camera views looking forward and directly underneath. The complimentary Wi-Fi code was a nice touch, and it worked okay for the most part, although it did struggle to send pictures. The crew were pretty generous with the drinks as well, and came back multiple times offering more. Eventually, the sun began to set as we passed over Norway, and our time with Air Greenland was coming to an end. We got to enjoy that wing view for a little longer in the sunset lighting before it dipped below the horizon. We soon flew over the west coast of Denmark, and it was right around then that we began our descent. Here's the arrival into Copenhagen Kastrup Airport, landing on runway 22 left.
When we land in Copenhagen,
Welcome to Copenhagen, where the local time is 7 minutes past 8 p.m. We kindly ask you to remain seated with your...
So that was what it was like to fly on Air Greenland's flagship. It is very rare that an airline has just a single wide-body airplane, let alone purchasing a brand new replacement for it, but it's clear there was lots of thought put into the design and general experience on Nuuk. I had a great time on this flight, and not just for the novelty of all of it, which I realize is what every video is based on. The premium seats were worth it. They were nice and roomy, although I would have liked a working headrest. The food was pretty good as well, nothing spectacular, but other things like the sheer amount of stuff they had on the in-flight entertainment was remarkable. It does have me excited to see if the A320neo will also have a similar interior, and if maybe they'd ever try some more Canadian cities someday. Now, we still had to get ourselves back home, and this was really only half the trip, so there is still a bit more to come from this part of the world. In the meantime, I'm very happy I can say I got to fly on Air Greenland's A330. Thank you very much for watching this flight on the A330neo and everything else from this very special trip to Greenland, and I will see you in the next one.